The building owner, Captain Farlow, wants to discuss your lease terms. To understand why that sentence made my stepmother's face lose all its color, you'd have to understand the 4 years that led to it. 4 years of her treating me like a charity case who needed guidance on everything from career choices to proper footwear. 4 years of me letting her, because watching someone be confidently wrong is one of life's underrated pleasures. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My father married Candice Jarman 2 years after my mother died. I was 40 years old, stationed at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado Springs, and I received the news via a phone call that started with, "I hope you're sitting down," and ended with, "She's really something special." Within 6 months, Candice had redecorated the house I grew up in, donated most of my mother's belongings to Goodwill, and decided that I was her new project. "Your father tells me you're in the military," she'd said the first time we met, looking me up and down like I was a fixer-upper property with good bones but terrible curb appeal. "That's admirable. Not everyone is cut out for college." I'd actually finished my undergraduate degree before joining the Air Force, then completed 2 master's degrees while deployed, but I didn't correct her. Why would I? The assumption was too delicious. Candice had worked in retail her entire adult life. Assistant manager at a department store, then store manager, then regional supervisor. She was good at it, I'll give her that. She understood merchandising and customer service, and how to move product. What she didn't understand was much else, but she had the confidence of someone who'd climbed one specific ladder and assumed all ladders worked the same way. "You know what you need?" she'd said at that first dinner. "A 5-year plan. Goals. I have this book I can lend you. It's about personal branding. You can't just drift through life, hoping things work out." I was a major at the time, 3 years away from making lieutenant colonel, with a security clearance that gave me access to satellite reconnaissance data from 17 countries. But sure, I needed help with my 5-year plan. Over the following years, Candice's advice became more specific and more relentless. I should consider community college courses in business management. I should update my LinkedIn profile. I should network more. Did I know that most jobs were found through connections? I should think about what happens when I age out of the military, since they probably wouldn't keep me past a certain point. My father would sit at these dinners, nodding along, occasionally glancing at me with apologetic eyes, but never quite working up the courage to tell his new wife that his daughter didn't need career counseling. He was happy with Candice. She'd brought energy back into his life after years of grief. If the price of his happiness was me enduring unsolicited advice, it seemed a small enough cost. So I smiled and nodded and said things like, "That's interesting, I'll think about it," while mentally calculating satellite trajectories and reviewing intelligence assessments on foreign military installations. The boutique idea started about 18 months ago. Candice had saved money from her retail career, and she'd always dreamed of owning her own shop. She wanted something upscale but accessible, trendy but timeless. She'd spent months refining her vision, creating mood boards, developing a business plan. "I'm looking at properties downtown," she'd said over Sunday dinner. "There's this perfect space in the old industrial district. The landlord wants $5,000 a month, but the location is everything. The building has such character. Exposed brick, high ceilings. It's exactly what I need." "That's steep," my father had said carefully. "Investment, not expense. The right location pays for itself," although, she'd sighed, "I'm a little worried about the lease terms. The owner wants a 3-year commitment up front. That's a lot of risk." "Maybe start somewhere smaller," I'd suggested. "Test the market?" She'd given me that patient smile, the one that said she appreciated my input, but clearly I didn't understand business. "Sweetie, in retail, you can't think small. You have to project confidence. Customers can smell fear. If you don't believe you'll succeed, why should they?" The property she wanted was one of mine. I own 12 commercial buildings in the downtown area, acquired over 15 years of strategic real estate investment. Military pay is decent, especially at senior levels, and when you spend months at a time deployed with nowhere to spend money, it accumulates. I'd started buying property in my early 30s, usually distressed buildings in areas poised for development. The old industrial district had been my best investment. I'd bought 5 warehouses for a song 10 years ago, converted them to mixed-use retail and office space, and now they generated rental income that exceeded my Air Force salary. The building Candice wanted was 847 Industrial Boulevard. I'd bought it for $80,000. It was now worth $1.2 million. She was looking at Unit 4B, a 2,000 square foot space with 16-foot ceilings and enormous windows that flooded the space with natural light. My property manager, who handled the day-to-day operations and had no idea the owner was a woman he'd never met, had told me about the potential new tenant. Retail boutique, owner-operated, solid business plan. She's asking for some concessions on the lease, but overall looks good. Wants to call it refined. I think we should approve it. What kind of concessions? First month free, option to terminate, with 60 days notice in the first year. Landlord covers HVAC maintenance. I'd approved it. Why not? It was a good space, and Candice had a decent business plan. I wasn't going to sabotage her dream just because she was condescending. That would be petty. And I'm not petty. I'm just patient. The boutique took 6 months to set up. Candice worked herself ragged, sourcing inventory, designing the layout, hiring a part-time employee, building a social media presence. She'd wanted everything to be perfect for the grand opening. She'd sent out invitations to everyone she knew, plus local influencers and business owners. She'd planned every detail down to the custom gift bags for her VIP guests. She'd invited me, of course. I know you're probably busy with your military stuff, she'd said, but it would mean a lot if you came, even just for an hour. Wouldn't miss it. Oh, good. And Siobhan, my friend from yoga, she's bringing her sister who works in HR. You two should talk. She might have some good advice for when you transition out of the service. Can't wait. The opening was on a Saturday in November. I'd taken leave, flown in Friday night, and spent Saturday morning getting my hair cut and picking out an outfit that said supportive stepdaughter rather than senior military officer. Jeans, a nice sweater, boots, casual but not sloppy, exactly what Candice would expect. The boutique looked good, I had to admit. She'd transformed the raw industrial space into something warm and inviting. Wooden display tables made from reclaimed barn doors, vintage mirrors, string lights overhead, a seating area with velvet chairs where customers could rest while shopping. The inventory was well curated, scarves and jewelry and handbags, nothing too trendy, everything timeless enough to last multiple seasons. When I arrived at 2 p.m., the place was packed. 50 people, maybe more, clustered in groups, sipping wine from plastic cups, examining merchandise, congratulating Candice on her achievement. She worked the room like the professional she was, making introductions, thanking people for coming, steering them toward items she thought they'd love. I hung back near the register, observing. This was Candice's moment, and I wasn't going to interfere. My father found me after 20 minutes. She's really done it, he said, pride evident in his voice. I wasn't sure at first, the risk seemed so high, but look at this turnout. It's impressive. She wanted to do this right. The gift bags alone cost her $2,000, designer scarves, one for each VIP guest. She said, you have to spend money to make money. I nodded, watching Candice hand a turquoise gift bag to a woman who squealed with delight. Around 3 p.m., Candice gathered her VIP guests, about 30 people, near the front of the store. She'd arranged a display of the gift bags on a table, each one stuffed with tissue paper, a silk scarf visible at the top. I want to thank everyone for coming today, she said, her voice carrying across the room. This has been a dream of mine for so long, and I couldn't have done it without your support. As a small token of my appreciation, I have something special for each of you. She started handing out the bags to specific people. Her yoga friends, her former colleagues, local business owners, the influencers she'd courted. Each recipient made appreciative noises, pulling out scarves that probably retailed for $300 each. I stayed where I was, not expecting anything. I wasn't a VIP, I was family, which meant my presence was expected but not particularly valued. Then Candice spotted me. Siobhan, come here, sweetie. I walked over, aware of 30 pairs of eyes on me. Candice reached for the basket of gift bags, then paused. Her hand hovered over them for a moment before she pulled it back. Oh, honey, these aren't for you. I got you something more appropriate. She reached under the table and pulled out a small box. Inside was a keychain with the store logo, a simple metal circle with refined engraved on it. "You can tell people you were here," she smirked, and several people laughed. Not cruel laughter, but the kind of gentle amusement that comes when someone makes a joke at the expense of someone who can presumably take it. I looked at the keychain, then at the basket of scarves worth more than my monthly car payment, then at Candice's face, which showed genuine belief that she was being thoughtful, giving me something I could actually use instead of wasting an expensive scarf on someone who probably wouldn't appreciate it anyway. "That's very practical," I said. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand. You're always so sensible about these things." I pocketed the keychain and stepped back, watching the rest of the VIP distribution. The thing about public humiliation is that it only works if the person being humiliated feels shame. I didn't. I felt anthropological curiosity, the same way you might observe a documentary about a species with interesting but ultimately limited cognitive capacity. Around 4 p.m., as the crowd started to thin, a man in a suit entered the boutique. He looked around with the air of someone conducting business rather than shopping, then approached Candice. "Ms. Jarman, I'm Trevor Nesmith from Henderson and Associates." He handed her a business card. "I'm the accountant for several properties in this building. Could I speak with you privately for a moment?" Candice's face brightened. "Of course! Is this about the tenant association? I'd love to be involved." They stepped to the side, near where I was standing. Trevor pulled out a folder. "Actually, it's about your lease. There's been some confusion in our office about your payment schedule, and I wanted to clarify directly with the building owner. Do you have contact information for Captain Farlow? Our records show the LLC, but I need to speak with the actual owner about." Candice laughed. "I don't have personal contact with the landlord. Everything goes through the property management company. But if you need to discuss my lease, I'm sure we can." "No, you misunderstand. I need to speak with Captain Farlow about several properties they own in this building. But while I'm here, I should mention your HVAC maintenance clause. The owner wanted me to confirm you understand that only covers the unit itself, not the ductwork. If you need ductwork repairs, that's on you as the tenant." "Wait." Candice's smile faltered. "Captain Farlow is the building owner?" "Yes, Captain Siobhan Farlow. Owns this building plus 11 others in the district. Very hands-off landlord, prefers everything to go through the management company. But sometimes we need direct approval for Siobhan Farlow." Candice turned slowly to look at me. "Captain." Trevor followed her gaze. His eyes widened. "Oh, Colonel Farlow! I'm sorry. I didn't realize. They told me you'd be here, but I didn't think." "It's fine," I said. "And yes, the HVAC clause is correct. Ms. Jarman is responsible for ductwork repairs." The conversations around us had stopped. Every head in the boutique turned toward me. Candice's mouth opened and closed. You own this building?" "This one and 11 others, yes." "You're a colonel?" "Yes." "Since when?" "I made lieutenant colonel 6 years ago. Full colonel 2 years ago." My father appeared at Candice's elbow. "Siobhan, what's going on?" "Your daughter owns this building," Candice said, her voice strange and high. "She's been my landlord this entire time." "I didn't know how to bring it up," I said, which was technically true. "You were so excited about the space, and I didn't want to make things weird." "Make things weird?" Candice's face was flushing red. You've been listening to me talk about business plans and lease negotiations, and your business plan is solid," I said. "That's why I approved the lease." "You approved?" She stopped, breathing hard. "The concessions, the first month free, that was you?" "The property manager recommended them. I agreed." Trevor, sensing he'd walked into something complicated, backed away slowly. I'll send an email about the ductwork thing, Colonel, if you need me to." "We're fine, Trevor, thank you." He fled. Candice stared at me like I was a math problem that didn't make sense. Around us, her guests had gone quiet, watching the scene unfold with the fascinated horror of people witnessing something they'll definitely gossip about later. "Why didn't you tell me?" Candice finally asked. "You never asked." "I asked about your career constantly." "You told me about my career constantly. You never actually asked what I did." "You could have corrected me." "I could have." I agreed. "But you seemed so sure of yourself. Who was I to undermine your confidence?" My father stepped between us. "Siobhan, this isn't fair. Your stepmother was trying to help you. Was she? Or was she trying to feel superior by positioning herself as the successful one, teaching the struggling one? That's not, Candace shook her head. I genuinely thought you needed guidance. You never talk about your work, you dress like, she gestured at my outfit. You drive a 15-year-old Toyota. I drive a 15-year-old Toyota because I own 12 commercial buildings that require capital reserves. My car works fine. Why would I replace it? You own 12 buildings, Candace repeated, like saying it out loud would make it make sense. 14, actually. I acquired 2 more last month in the River District. One of Candace's yoga friends, a woman named Celine, spoke up. You're an Air Force colonel and you own 14 commercial buildings? Yes. How? 23 years of military pay, combat deployment bonuses, housing allowances, and strategic real estate investments starting in my early 30s. Plus 2 master's degrees that qualified me for additional pay grades. It's not complicated if you live below your means and invest aggressively. Candace's face had gone from red to pale. The trust fund. We tried to set up a trust fund for you. $20,000 for your retirement. I remember. You have 14 buildings. Yes. Why did you let us? I didn't let you do anything. You decided to do it. I declined. Several times. But you let us think. You let me think you were... She couldn't finish the sentence. Struggling? Directionless? In need of guidance? I pulled the keychain from my pocket. You gave me this instead of a $300 scarf. Because you thought I wouldn't appreciate the scarf? Because you've spent 4 years convinced I'm too unsophisticated to understand quality. I was trying to be appropriate, to meet you where you were. Where I was, I said, was above you, professionally, financially, in terms of security clearance and responsibility and impact. But you needed me to be below you, so that's where you put me. And I let you, because it was easier than constantly correcting someone who wouldn't believe me anyway. The silence in the boutique was absolute. 50 people, frozen, watching a family implode in real time. My father touched Candace's arm. Honey, maybe we should. No, Candace pulled away from him. She looked at me with something between anger and humiliation. You played me. You let me make a fool of myself for years and you enjoyed it. I did, I admitted. Is that worse than you spending years being condescending to someone you never bothered to actually know? I was trying to help. You were trying to feel important. There's a difference. Celine stepped forward. Okay, everyone's emotional. Maybe we should give them some space. No, I want to understand this. Candace's voice was shaking. You're telling me that for 4 years, you've been secretly successful while letting me treat you like a charity case? I'm telling you that for 4 years, you made assumptions about me based on your limited understanding of what success looks like. I didn't correct you because watching you be wrong was more interesting than fighting to be seen correctly. That's cruel. Maybe, but it's also honest. You want to know what's cruel? Spending years receiving advice on personal branding from someone who thinks owning a boutique is the pinnacle of achievement. Smiling through dinners where someone tells you to consider community college while you're briefing generals on national security matters. Being handed a keychain instead of a gift because someone assumes you're too poor or too stupid to appreciate anything better. I didn't know. You didn't ask. There's a difference. My father's face was pale. Siobhan, your stepmother made assumptions, yes, but you deliberately deceived us. I omitted information. You filled in the blanks with your own prejudices. That's semantics. No, Dad, it's the difference between lying and letting someone believe what they want to believe. You wanted to believe Candace was helping me, because it made her feel good, and made you feel good, and made everything simpler. Nobody wanted to consider that maybe I didn't need help, that maybe I was doing just fine. Candace wrapped her arms around herself. So what now? You've humiliated me in front of everyone I know. Do you feel better? I considered the question honestly. No, I feel exactly the same, amused mostly. And a little disappointed that you're more upset about being wrong than about the 4 years you spent being condescending. I don't know what you want from me. I don't want anything from you, that's the point. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse from behind the counter. I need to leave. I can't. I need air. She walked out of the boutique, and after a moment's hesitation, my father followed her. The remaining guests began to file out, whispering to each other, clutching their gift bags, already composing the texts they'd send the moment they reached their cars. Celine paused at the door. "That was brutal," she said to me. "Yes." "Did you plan it?" "No, but I didn't stop it either." She nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, the keychain thing was pretty shitty." "Agreed." She left. I stood alone in the boutique, surrounded by Candice's dream made real, and felt nothing in particular, no triumph, no guilt. Just the quiet satisfaction of a puzzle piece, finally clicking into place. Trevor reappeared from wherever he'd been hiding. "Colonel, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause—" "You didn't cause anything. This was inevitable. Do you want me to? Should I follow up on the ductwork issue?" "Send the email, business as usual." He nodded and left. I walked around the boutique, examining the merchandise, the careful curation, the aesthetic choices that spoke to Candice's eye for design and understanding of her market. She'd built something real here, something that mattered to her. And I just watched it get tainted by the revelation that her landlord was the stepdaughter she'd spent 4 years pitying. Would she stay? Would she break the lease? Would she try to act like nothing had happened? I didn't know, and the not knowing was more interesting than any answer could be. I picked up one of the remaining gift bags from the VIP table and looked inside. The scarf was beautiful. Silk, hand-dyed, probably Italian, worth every penny of the $300. I left it on the table and walked out, keychain in my pocket, into the November afternoon. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. "We need to talk." I texted back, "Do we?" No response. I drove back to my hotel, checked out early, and caught a flight back to Colorado Springs. Monday morning, I'd brief a room full of generals on satellite reconnaissance capabilities over the South China Sea. Tuesday, I'd review security protocols for 3 military installations. Wednesday, my property manager would email me about whether Candice had decided to stay or break her lease. And somewhere in there, I'd probably think about whether I should feel bad about what happened. But probably not. Because the thing about being underestimated is that eventually someone pays for it. And I decided years ago that it wouldn't be me.